that's a new one.
SVP monitors. So, I'm just going to call the meeting to order. Um, so can I get a motion or no? I don't need a motion to open the meeting. Brad, if you could note 7:04,
Mhm.
we'll open the meeting. We'll wait. Actually, since we have at least two people here, we can at the very least approve last 2 months ago's meeting minutes because we didn't meet during December. Sally, could you let me know, do you have access to the share folder?
Probably not.
Okay, I'm gonna send you the link to to the the share folder so you can just bookmark it. Um,
I don't really know how to do too much of that kind of stuff. So,
that this will all stay within your browser.
okay,
So
beautiful.
it should be, just when you click on it, just however you normally bookmark stuff, you can just bookmark it.
Okay.
It's where we keep stuff.
Yeah.
And I'll send you a screenshot of all the stuff so that you can see how it's organized, what's in there. Hi, Tanya. Um, and so I know Tanya knows where it is. So we'll do, Tanya, we've called the meeting to order. Asking right now, we're just talking to Sally about um, the cloud share for the group. First of all, Sally, welcome
Thank
officially
you.
and on the meeting to the group. As noted in email to the group earlier, Sally is the newest member of our board. So it's first of all, it's awesome to have you here. Second of all, it's awesome that you volunteered. We very, very much appreciate it, and hopefully it will bear fruit tonight that you're here. We
Great.
shall see.
Yes, thank you for joining.
Yes.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
I noted to one and all that that this week's slash month's link is different than our historical one. So hopefully nobody was using that historical one. I don't think they would be. Part of me almost wants to go and test the one that I sent out. But I know it's to be correct. Because I know members of the public who had reached out to me and said they would be on the call tonight. I don't see them yet. Anyway, we'll start with the first order of business. We'll just at least keep some of this rolling. Um, and that's the review and approval of the November 27th, 2024 meeting minutes. And since Sally isn't up to speed yet on where the share is, Brad and Tanya have at it as far as which one he wants to first and second it.
Yeah, I'll motion to approve.
And I'll second.
Great. And there's not
Awesome.
much there. That, as everybody remembers, was a very thin meeting. Brad was, pardon me, Brad was out attending to much more important matters. And I think we were down at least two other members. So there's very little on the agenda besides, I know Sally was at that meeting because that's when we convinced her to hand raise. So there's that. I'm gonna mute for a second. Okay, so we're just gonna move into it. Second agenda item is public forum. Everybody's heard me mention the order of this, especially for people who are new. Sally, I know you've heard it because you've been on as a member of the public before. We always start with public forum, give members of the public a chance to speak so that they don't have to sit through any other business that they don't want to deal with. So that's why we've moved that up to the front. I will note that I think moving forward, we're going to take I'm the one that probably has to mind this the most, but we're going to probably hew a little bit more towards a classical public comment way of managing this part of it, in that it's a place for the public to make comments, period, rather than for us to then back and forth with the public on things. I think in our efforts to be welcoming and conversational, again, I blame myself as much more than anybody for this, and to really engage with our public, especially the people who are coming here to these meetings. We've tended to go back and forth, or I've tended to go back and forth with people who are talking in the public comment section of the night. I've noticed that the way other committees are running that, they're strictly using it as an input phase. So I think we're gonna start to hew to that unless the needs like sort of demand it, but just the way I've read, and I've got to obviously read up on Robert's Rules of Order to see if there's any commentary in there that we should be going to, and I'm of course going to ask Jessica and Ian if we should be mindful of anything. Um, I'm not sure because of the fact that we're all appointed positions versus elected positions, that places or removes a burden on us for the public comment session, but I will find that out. Just something that's been on my mind for the last since the last one is okay, there may be a way that we need to run public comment section differently.
Not that we get that many anyway.
No, no, the good point, Tanya. Though we do have often, when outside of outside of Jim, who's doing his good citizens duty most of the months to be on these calls, sometimes we get people only here for that. So, and again, some people had reached out to me previously for this meeting, and I thought that they were going to be on this. Appears they're not going to be. So everybody's seen the agenda. Let me hold on. Let me share it with everybody just so you can see in case anybody wants to note anything for this that you feel like should be in. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna unshare. Stop share. I just want to make sure. This is all good and correct. Okay, so we're gonna go. I just want to remind everybody what's on the agenda for tonight. Share. Okay, so the agenda that follows public forum is going to be Pine Street traffic calming, village speed limit, grants, other business, and then adjourn. If anybody on the committee tonight, hi Jim, thank you for joining. If anybody in the committee tonight has any business or has anything that they feel like you want to proceed, it doesn't fall into Pine Street, village speed limit grants or anything like that, you can certainly use this time to note that. Otherwise, we can move on to Pine Street. Everyone good?
You mean, if we have anything we want to bring it up right now?
Well, you can bring it up now or at the other business phase. I
Okay.
think now is more like again, staying in the public, kind of the public commentary space is more like statement oriented things versus
Yeah.
like other business.
Yeah.
But obviously feel free, the floor is anyone's at this point if they want to take it.
I have had more of my neighbors here on Mountain Street complaining about the speeding, especially at night. Yeah, people just fly up this road, so they've been asking about getting some kind of speed monitor or any research with that. I know that we mentioned it a long time ago.
Tanya, do your neighbors or yourself note that the speeding is happening in any particular part of Mountain? Is it happening towards the East Street section, the school section, the down by the S's?
All the way up from the bottom where it joins 116,
Yeah.
usually going up the hill all the way past the school. And I don't know how far up past the school. Let's see, the last one that complained to me was probably just before the S turn actually. So yeah, all the way up.
Okay, got it.
And they know a few cars that are repeat offenders, but in general, and I have witnessed myself the delivery truck for the school speeding ridiculously at 2 a.m. regularly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a quick little bit of outreach we can make to possibly get one of the speed cameras up on there
That would
first. And then we should discuss the second part of that. That seems when it's identifiable, that seems like something that can be escalated relatively easily, especially given the nature of how you described it.
Yep.
And Sally, just for your information, Mountain Street has always been the next street we were going to approach with a traffic calming
Yeah.
initiative, with the idea being that we would do something of a pilot program. We would use Pine Street as a pilot program,
Mhm.
and then take whatever learnings we found there and bring them over to potentially to Mountain Street, depending on the shape of the challenge on Mountain Street that we were trying to solve.
Do you mean this is the next one after looking at Pine Street?
Yeah, so you know, the Pine Street
Yeah.
project has a long history.
Yeah.
And over the course of that protracted history, it's always been it's always been in our notes that Mountain was the next one that people wanted
Okay.
us to deal with once we
Right.
figured out something on Pine. The
Great.
difference being the thing that there's two exacerbating factor, no, two factors that differentiate Mountain from Pine. Mountain Street has a sidewalk for the most part, though it's been noted time and again that where Mountain Street's sidewalk stops is where Mountain Street starts to instantly get dangerous for walkers and bikers down by the S's. And then the other one is that the school is on Mountain Street, and that should elevate as much as the sidewalk protects.
Yep.
The school would tend to, the presence of kids most of the time would tend to elevate it. Okay,
Thanks.
good to know. Anybody else have any other comments either on that or anything else before we jump in to a couple other things? All right, so the next agenda item, and this is actually unchanged from, I don't want to reference our notes, but for at least the past 4 or 5 meetings that we have not had quorums for, is that the select board wanted us to bring to a vote and then bring to them suggestions again for Pine Street traffic calming, that now that the road has been paved and that they've noticed an uptick in both traffic and speeding on Pine Street, and they've noticed a commensurate uptick in comments from people who live on Pine Street about it, that there's a hunger on the select board to get a suggestion from us, or multiple suggestions. Sally, in the
Yep.
share that I'm going to send to you, you'll see our revised notes on the original, not the original, on two things, on the stop sign initiative that was
Yep.
proposed, that they asked us to propose as a substitute for the traffic calming for the advisory lanes.
Yep.
And then we've also got the advisory lane documentation. I believe at this point there is a desire from the select board to see both of those things floated by it again for consideration.
I was at a meeting of the select board and they were talking about this stuff. And it sounded like enough people did not like the stop signs.
Yep.
Because, stopping, going, they were leaning more toward lowering the speed to 25 miles per hour, maybe.
That is the next agenda item.
Yeah.
Village speed limit.
Okay. Yeah. And then
So-
they knew that had to happen before we could talk about advisory lanes, because you can't even suggest an advisory lane until a road is a 25-mile-an-hour road. So you have to go 25 first. That has to be the first step.
That's news to us, unless Brad and Tanya, please correct me. I don't know that we've ever heard that guidance before.
No, I
Okay.
haven't.
I think I heard it through local motion,
Okay,
but I don't remember everything correctly. So it
That
might
would-
not exactly, but
that would counter advisory lanes that we've seen in towns like Lincoln, where they were definitely not on roads. In fact, they were on roads that had 40-mile-an-hour speed limits.
I don't know if it was 40 right there at the beginning where they had it. They had it right next to the church between those two. Can't imagine that was 40 right there.
That wasn't the only place they had advisory lanes in Lincoln.
Oh,
Yeah, they had them in our documentation. In fact, let me see. I have the deck open. Here, I'll show you. So on South Lincoln Road, I'll show you this in a second. I don't know that these lanes are there anymore.
no.
But this is South Lincoln Road.
Okay.
And
Mm.
this
Oh,
was
yeah, yeah.
definitely, this was
Right.
definitely not
Okay.
a 40, this is definitely not a 25-mile-an-hour road.
Yeah. So these aren't actually, I mean, even though it looks like that, it's still wide enough they kind of made this as a way to show where walkers and bikers could go, but you can still have two cars in this width is what's still going on there. It's not really advisory lanes. They don't really have signs that call them advisory lanes. They just sort of write in the thing, oh, for bikers or something like that. But I don't know,
But-
maybe you've heard something different.
Well, the two-lane thing, let's clarify what you mean by that. Two cars passing each other at the same time, or two cars
Yeah.
between those two sets of lines?
That's a good point.
Because the
Right.
reason why we
Okay.
were originally handed the advisory lane option is because Pine Street was and remains too narrow to be considered a two-lane road.
How much did we gain in width?
We gained a foot.
Okay.
Well, I'm all game for advisory lanes. I think they're great. I just wasn't sure if in Bristol on Pine, we could go directly to those without already having the 25-mile-an-hour thing, that mainly.
I will reach out to Jessica, given she's our liaison and
Okay,
was the person who, part of the group that handed us the idea of the advisory lanes was as our first project.
Yep.
So we can look up the fact that or find out if we need to start with the 25-mile-an-hour situation. But I know we were also asked by the select board to vote on a recommendation because again, the 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 appetite is there to consider it, the lowering of the speed limit thing, despite all of the commentary on what lowering a speed limit means from a legal perspective. There's been some conflating of what it means for a state road, of which we only have one going through the village, and the rest of the surface streets in the village. So, yes, there is a law that says this is the process for lowering the speed limit on a state road. That's
Yeah.
East Street and West Street.
Yeah.
The process for lowering a speed limit in a town and when a police department can start enforcing those rules is, I believe, different than the rule that's set for lowering the speed limit on a state road.
Yeah.
So that's information that we've had to navigate and try to find what the truth is. And
Yeah.
Brad and Tanya can note this for like 2 years now.
Yeah.
People have been saying, no, you can't lower the speed limit because it won't be enforceable. There's truth to that, but it's not truth that applies to every single street in the Bristol Police District. So
Yeah. I really think from that last select board I went to, which wasn't that recent, but they were talking about this and they seemed like they could go with the
Yeah.
25 and they thought they'd be able to pull that off.
Yeah.
25 on all the small streets, but not the state,
So what, pardon me, what the select board was looking for from us, not unlike the Pine Street thing, is they just want our suggestion. They want, okay, can you guys vote? Can you all vote on this?
Yeah.
Does the BPAC think it's something that they should pursue to be as with us as the advisory committee
Yeah.
for these
Yeah.
types of things? So that's what they were looking for, and they've been looking for it for 4 or 5 months now.
Yeah.
Without a quorum, we haven't been able to vote on it.
Are we
And
able to today?
You're not.
What? Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, this is Jim Cassart. Sorry,
Hey, Jim.
I'm trying to. There we go. Okay.
Excellent.
So you need a quorum for this? What's
We need a plural. Yes, we need X number of board members on the call to vote for it.
how many you got?
1, 2, 3. Ooh, now it looks like we have 5. So Dustin just popped up and it looks like we can actually vote on these things.
Cool.
So Jim, you picked a heck of a night to attend your first BPAC meeting because you're about to see a couple things get voted on in quick succession.
I'm all eyes and ears.
Okay, Dustin, hello. You're muted, Dustin, just so you know.
Oh, hi, Chris. Sorry, I'm late. My daughter's got a soccer game.
No, we appreciate that you're here. That Dustin, good news. You joining, that makes a quorum. So we've got a couple items that I'd like to, if you're okay with it, I'd like to vote on in quick succession. Just two things that the select board has been asking us to put in front of them for 4 or 5 months now. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the first thing is going to be Pine Street traffic calming. They're asking us to put back in front of them suggestions for that. You'll remember that we initially were doing the
Mhm.
advisory bike and pedestrian lanes. They told us to stop, put in front of them a suggestion for stop signs. We did that.
Yep.
They parked it. They came to us back in the fall and asked us to float stuff in front of them for Pine Street again. What I'm asking the board to vote on is I would like to put both of those plans back together and at least
Yep.
get them in front of the select board so that they can have both of them in play. And there's another issue that's going to fold into that. It's going to be the next thing we vote on. That's going to be the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit suggestion. So we'll vote
Yep.
on that next. But
Okay.
before we do that, does anybody have any questions on the Pine Street stuff?
Now
I do. Oh, go ahead.
why don't you go ahead?
Well, I just wanted to ask, is what you want to put on there as a suggestion, number one, stop signs and or 25-mile-an-hour? I mean, I need to hear what it is before we go ahead.
So, all right. So here, we'll go through this.
We aren't doing the stop signs anymore. We already
Okay,
presented
great.
a-
That's what I wanted to make sure. Excellent. I thought,
that was what they asked us to do before, and then
Yeah.
first that.
great. I'm so happy to hear that. So what are we going for now?
So
Exactly.
here, we'll walk everybody through this again. And I've changed the date on this from, I think it was 2022 when we first considered this. So this is the original. This doesn't give super detailed plans, but what this allows the select board to do is consider whether to move this forward to the next phase. And most of the select board is going to be familiar with this because they had initially 3 or 4 years ago when they chartered this group, they had already budgeted for this particular project. They had already both budgeted for and contracted with a vendor to do what I'm about to show you. I mentioned earlier, just before we were about to put this in front of them, they said, put the brakes on that. We'd rather see a stop sign proposal. So what we're putting back in front of them is something that they had already budgeted for 3 years ago. So we'll start off here. The due diligence that we had done on this for Pine Street traffic calming in the form of these lines is we reviewed best practices, suggestions, and materials provided to us from the ad hoc committee, from the town, as well as from Local Motion and other resources that we found from communities that had done this. All of these materials are on the cloud share.
Yeah.
We walked, measured, and observed Pine Street.
Yeah.
We visited a handful of places, including Burlington, walked the entire length of Pine Street, looked at that. That's a project that continues to evolve both on Pine Street as well as on some of the other streets that are adjacent to it. As mentioned earlier, we visited South Lincoln Road in Lincoln, which at the time was the only thing that had these lines. I know they did it later in other places. We measured their lines, took photos, observed how traffic was flowing and interacting with them. And then we got community input from Pine Street residents. This all happened, Sally.
Yeah.
I just want to check my dates on this.
I'm okay. I'm okay. You don't have to give me all these details. I just wanted to, I was glad to hear just what our proposal is now. I trust you did all the stuff ahead of time, so
Oh,
don't
okay,
wait for me. Just go right to it. I just wanted to make sure the stop signs wasn't still on the proposal now.
Okay. And then so these were just some of the reference photos that we had taken. Our suggestions are, after the research we did, again, this research took place over 2022 and 2023, is going with broken white lines. We felt even at the time, and this is before Pine Street was dug up and repaved, we felt that 3 feet from the inside line to the pavement edge was a good way to go. Brad and I measured this whole thing, and the suggestions from a best practices standpoint is 5 feet for the width of these lanes. But given how narrow Pine Street is, we looked at 3 feet as a reasonable way to pilot this type of thing that wasn't going to put too much of a be too disruptive. The lane width at the time would vary slightly as the road width is variable. It doesn't take, if you drew a straight line down Pine Street, you're not going to get an equidistant.
Yeah.
That measurement's going to change. And then we had initially suggested stop signs on Pine Street at all intersections, as well as a no-through traffic sign at both ends, along with one at the south end of Liberty.
So this part isn't on it anymore, the stop signs on Pine and no through
No, but
traffic, or that
no,
is still,
no, but the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, sorry, I didn't adjust this, but the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit is back in place. So they had, I've got to
Okay.
go back in time here and remind myself of what the sequence was. At some point, the select board told us, don't consider the 25-mile-an-hour thing. Then they told us, don't do the advisory lane thing. Do the sidewalk, do the stop sign thing. So this has some vestigial elements in it of 2.5 years worth of process that I just, thank you for reminding me I needed to strip out and adjust. Okay, so this is what I'd like to vote on for the crew right now is I would like to put the advisory lines plan back in front of them, noting to everybody on the group, we are an advisory committee. We put things in front of the select board. They consider them, they can amend them, they can dismiss them. One of the things that they typically do when they're amending things is they might look at the 3 feet thing. They might go 4 feet. They might go 2 feet. They might go, those should be solid lines. So just know that the reason why we're suggesting this is a baseline for them to then go and ask us either for further input or make their own changes as they potentially rescope this with a vendor to go and execute it. Okay? Just want to let everybody know that what you're seeing here isn't etched in stone. It's something that the select board, in the spirit of this whole, of the way these committees work, the select board takes this under advisement and will go and do with it what they feel is the best path forward. Okay? So if you're all, is there any other discussion first on this before we move to a vote?
So it's Dustin here. I know I missed some meetings in the fall. I guess I do remember when the select board they seemed to be, and I remember when they were cool to the idea of the striping for the pedestrian lanes, but were warmer to the idea of the stop signs. And I myself feel like the stop signs would do more to calm the traffic. And it would also kind of, you know, when the paint wears out, the signs are still there too, so it may be more effective longer term. How did it come that we're taking the stop signs out and going back to the striping?
So, pardon me. So when we presented the stop sign plan at the select board meeting, I think it was over a year ago now, they took it under advisement and parked it. They were not ready to make a decision at that time. And I don't know that they've ever made an official decision on it. I think they've just kept it parked. They came back to us, Dustin, in the fall and asked us to revisit this particular plan and get it back in front of them.
and when I did hear them at a meeting about 2 months ago, they seemed against the stop signs when they were talking about it. So they talked about looking into 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. And they thought about waiting on advisory lane, but, you know, I think putting the broken white lines in there, even if you're not calling it advisory lanes, because, you know, it's gonna be narrower,
Right.
it's worth putting that in there, I think.
It is. I feel, I mean, it'll narrow the road a bit, which will calm it. And I just, I'm not sure the lines, you know, after a year or two, when the paint's faded and then gone, it's, you know, we're kind of back.
Yeah.
So my personal preference, I just want to say, would be to put the stop signs there, like let's say Maple and Liberty, and
Mhm.
that would be more effective because, and you wouldn't need the stop signs because no one's going to get. I mean, not the stop signs, but the speed limit. I don't think that if you're going 30 down Pine Street, you're going too fast anyways. I don't think most traffic's going that fast. Except for the people that are using it as the cutoff, right? You know,
Yeah.
you come from North Street, you turn right down Pine, left on Liberty, you never hit a stop sign, and you're out in quick.
Yeah.
So I think the stop signs would negate those people from coming and using it as a through road to bypass the intersection with the light town.
Yeah, if
And
Yeah,
more
that's true.
people brought it up at the select board at board of those, it would be different, but a lot of people were speaking out against it from the public.
Okay,
So yeah, it's sort of in their hands now, but it would be up to more people speaking for it in that capacity at their meetings rather than because we already put it forward. So we
okay,
can't do anything else at this point.
okay. I guess I'm sorry I missed that to speak against it. So, but yeah, the line striping's better than nothing.
Yeah, that's kind
Look at it that way.
I think the main thing about the line striping is it just reminds people that someone else uses the road besides cars. I think that's the main
Right.
thing. It's like, okay, someone else uses this lane.
Yeah,
And it's just a constant reminder that it's not just for cars.
right. Yeah. Okay, I'm ready to vote. Thanks for filling me in there.
are there any other questions or comments on this initiative? Okay, so sorry, Brett.
I was gonna say I'm really excited to vote. We've been talking about this for what feels like a year now, so let's go. I'm
And you're
fighting
gonna
at
get
the
to vote,
chomp.
and you're gonna get to vote again. You're gonna get two times
Okay.
elation tonight. Okay, so all in favor of the Bristol Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee bringing in front of the select board formally a proposal for traffic calming via advisory lanes on Pine Street, say aye.
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 And all not in favor, say nay. Okay, thank you. The ayes have it. Brad, I believe that's five up
Mhm.
for that. Again, I appreciate everybody showing up tonight so that we can make this, especially Sally. Just pushed us into, just provided the margin we needed. So I'm going to stop this share and we can move on to the next thing, which is the next agenda item. Hi, Jim. Good to see you. Which is village speed limit. So similarly, in the fall, we got a request from the select board to find out whether the BPAC would recommend lowering the the village speed limit to 25. So we've obviously heard a lot of information on this. This is going to be a simple yes or no vote. Can we draft a letter of support for lowering the village police district speed limit to 25 and present it to the select board so that they can use that in their decision-making process as they start to navigate this?
Sounds good.
So does anybody have any questions or comments on the vote at hand? All right, so All in favor of us drafting that memo to them, say aye.
Aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye.
All those not in favor, say nay. All right, thank you. Brad, please note that the ayes have it. And I will draft that letter, circulate it to the group and obviously copy our liaison and we will get it to them. They were dealing with a window on that particular one. And I'm not sure if that window's come and gone. We might have missed it, given that they had asked for it back in the fall. There was something they had asked us for that was time boxed. I can't find it in my email at this point, but as a result of not having quorum, we might not have been able to get it in front of them in time. Regardless, we'll draft the memo and get it to Jess. Okay, next agenda item onward and upward here is the subject of grants. We've currently got, I know we've talked for 2 years about grants, mostly in the abstract. We have currently got in front of us opportunities for at least 2 particular grants. One of them is, and a few people have sent this to me. I'm also on the share for this as well. The Addison County Regional Planning Commission has about $25,000 for bike and pedestrian planning. I'm reading from their memo to us that must be utilized by the end of the year. They're looking for projects that involve planning work around Bristol sidewalks or other bike and ped projects where we could effectively define a project. Let me know if you think your town might benefit from the funds. These are planning funds only, so they can't be used to offset costs from federal grants that a place like Middlebury already has. So I think that's why they're reaching out to multiple communities to get these ideas. What I will do is I'll ask the town grant writer if there's any ground rules that we need to mind here. And Sally, I'm not sure if you've got any guidance for us on this either, but when it comes to, they define it as planning work, we've got potential things that we've been talking about that, forget taking money to plan, like, if we wanted to put in more bike racks, that might cost $4,000 in total. Is this something that we're able to, I don't want to say skip a step, but is your understanding of this grant something where it can only go to survey work and things like that?
I think that's true. I
Okay.
think it is just for planning.
Okay.
But it could help, I don't know. I don't know how it could be. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be purchased for anything solid.
Okay. All right, then,
Which
Or building.
okay,
which
got it.
organization was that again? I apologize. Addison
Addison-
County.
Yeah, I'll forward you all a document with both
Okay.
of these things in it afterwards. But Brad, it was the Addison County Regional Planning Commission, ACRPC. And I'll forward you this so you can just cut and paste it into the minutes if you want.
So could we use those funds if we got them for Mountain Street?
I think we could probably use it for a survey.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they had done, there was preliminary survey work done to Pine Street. We could potentially use it for a survey, especially given the complexity of Mountain, that there is no sidewalk down at the end. Like, we could probably do something like that. So it's something, and I'm gonna get to the next grant in a second, but what I'd like us to do right now is, again, and Sally, I'm giving you some of the background here. For the last 2 years, we've been talking about grants in the abstract with a handful of ideas. An assisted crosswalk at the Pleasant Street to North intersection is one. Bike storage slash bike racks, more of them around town. Sally, we created an audit of all the bike racks in the village and the town. And obviously this isn't just unique to the village. Like, one of the things that people have asked for is, can we get better bike racks or bike storage at some of the parks down at the river and things like that? So we've got a document that I'll send you where you can see where we're doing an audit for those things. So we've got a handful of interesting projects that could slot into these grants. We just didn't necessarily have any grants to put them into. Plus, we didn't have quorum to vote on them.
And
Just
then the big one that we have talked about since the beginning that would take a lot of time and planning to see if it could ever happen is some sort of better path or whatever to Bristol Falls.
It's
So that
I'll
in
say.
terms of using funding for planning, that would take a lot of money.
and our grant writer, I'll note, she noted, when we asked her the difference between what's a small grant and a big grant, first of all, her small grant was like enough to do like most of the things that we were talking about. And then she said the big grants are more infrastructure related projects. If you wanted to, change a railroad bed into a bike path and things like some type of way of figuring out the Bristol Falls thing would fall under that.
There have been plans done for those years ago. I don't know if you've got to see those or not.
No.
Yeah, there were two, I think. And they were pretty major plans, very expensive to,
Of course.
do. That was kind of going on the away from the riverside, one of them. I think they tried to do something on the riverside and then decided I wasn't going to do it.
Yeah.
But they had to really go up and down, really, so it's not necessarily a flat one. But I think that is such a needed thing. I mean, just for the people who live there to get themselves safely into town. I mean,
That's
I'm
what's
hard-
been brought up to us multiple times is
Yeah.
just for the people who live in the Rockydale area, that
Yeah.
needs to be a safer corridor.
totally.
Yeah, but
And
that's
it's tricky.
the big money one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the state road. So
Yes.
it's not really our little thing that we can play around with so easily.
No, but we do have outreach. So we do have friends. We've got this bigger group, these bigger multi-town groups and things like that. So I
Yeah.
think we do owe it to
Yeah.
people to take a big swing at something.
I think
Um,
that would be a phenomenal project.
Yeah.
It really, something has to happen there.
Yep.
It's unsafe to ride on that road. I mean, I ride on it, but I'm hardcore flashing lights
Yeah.
and doing, I'm used to telling the cars not to bother me, but other people are just afraid to do it.
So what I'll do is, Sally, with your guidance there on this is probably planning in this scope of this description here really does mean planning. What I want everybody to do is in our next meeting, come with, okay, assume that we're going to vote on one or two or three things that we think need that type of planning phase, whether it's Mountain Street, whether it's, we'll ask Ian, because I know he's kind of the town expert on the advisory or the, pardon me, the assisted crosswalk thing. Do those need planning funds before they get executed? Anything else? So let's come to the next meeting with ideas / prepared to vote on on whatever conversation we want to have with the town grant writer so that we can get in for that grant. Okay.
Do you think that we want to ask Ian beforehand, you're saying, and so that we're ready to ask?
Well, I don't want to, like, as an example, since he already got one of these, a couple of them put in actually,
Oh, okay.
since he knew the process of
Yeah.
how an assisted crosswalk gets planned and executed, he might say, no, actually, since we've done it before, we don't, and you're saying,
Okay.
okay, that's the intersection you want to do this on. We don't need planning funds to do that.
Yeah.
We only need implementation funds or something like
Okay.
that. So that's I think
I see.
he's a great resource for.
Okay,
I picked that specifically because I knew that he had spearheaded
that's great.
that within the town and knows how it goes.
Excellent.
Okay, and then the second grant, Brad, again, I'll send you this document so that you can cut and paste from this what you want to. From AARP of Vermont, they're looking for eligible nonprofit organizations and governments to apply for the 2025 AARP Community Challenge. Community Challenge grants fund quick action projects that help communities become more livable by improving public spaces, transportation, housing, digital connections, and more. We had heard whispers of this grant, I think, late last year. the information's come through. This year, the AARP Community Challenge is accepting applications across 3 different grant opportunities. One is called Capacity Building Microgrants that they'll pair with additional resources such as one-on-one coaching from other organizations, webinars, cohorts for improving walkability, bikeability, implementing safe, accessible home modifications, and disaster preparedness. So that's firmly where we live in the first part of that. Second one is demonstration grants that fund projects that encourage the replication of local efforts. So that one is this year's focus is on improving pedestrian safety with funding from Toyota Motor of North America. And then an aspect of that is also expanding high-speed internet access. So the first 2 have components that obviously fall within ours. And then the third one is flagship grants that support projects that improve public spaces, transportation, housing, digital connections, and community resilience. I'll ask the grant writer to kind of parse that language, and especially in that last flagship one, because does transportation mean transportation in general, given how specifically bicycling and pedestrians are called out in the first 2 sets of grants? Or does it also include those so that she can navigate, okay, we've got great chances on this one and this one, but let's stay away from this one. Or, hey, you know what? I need a small one for this. I need a bigger one for this. And I need a huge one for this. I'm just not familiar enough with the language of how they're using transportation there. Again, I will forward this to everybody so that you can have it. But I'd like to do the same thing with this since it's, and I'm going to read this line to you again. Grants fund quick action projects, meaning like, are there things that are almost shovel ready that we could go and do? Again, we've talked about the bike rack thing. We've talked about the assisted crosswalk thing. Ian knows off the top of his head what those things cost. Things like that we can almost plug and play into these things are the types of things that I think we should consider for this. Things that don't necessarily need planning, except for that like one that sounds real big at the end. Questions, pardon me, questions or comments?
You just said which one seems really big at the end? You mean the third one you just said, C?
Yeah, the flagship
Flagship?
grant. Yeah, it's called flagship grant, Sally.
Okay,
I don't know if those things, based on the sound of it, it says improve public places, transportation, housing, digital connections. Like those to me sound, at least a few of those sound like infrastructure projects, ones that would require state cooperation or state regulations would come in.
Yeah.
So
so that
those are,
sounds like the one on East Street.
yeah,
Going
yeah,
toward,
yeah.
yeah, if that was something, yeah.
But the others feel like more bites in relative terms, bite-sized ones.
Yeah.
So
So-
it's,
okay.
sorry.
So when you said quick action, that one doesn't really sound like a quick action one.
That one doesn't, the other 2 do.
The other 2, okay, great.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks.
So it's similar to the I want to get the acronym right. The Addison County Regional Planning Commission, $25,000 one. When we come together next month, I'd like everybody to be some combination of prepared to present any ideas and ready to vote so that we can then go to the grant writer and let her do her thing. Brief her and let her do her thing. Okay.
If we vote on these, do they need to be approved by the select board though before we write for the grant, or?
Yeah, they'll actually take it over. We don't write the grant. The select board, what we do is we say, we've got an idea and we've got a grant. And the select board has told us last year, you want to get something through, you attach it to a grant.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, gang, here's a grant writer. So you're exactly right, Tanya. The process will be that we put it in front of them. They'll probably ask us for additional input. But it will not be, the BPAC does not, sorry me, I'm tongue tied. The BPAC does not apply for grants. The select board applies for the grants.
Great, easier for us.
Yeah, it's a good, it took me a minute to get my head around it, but in the end, I think that the fact that we don't have to do it in combination with the fact that we have a grant writer is you remember when she was on, it just, the mind sort of boggled with the possibilities that it was potentially going to unlock.
Do you think it's worth saying something about, our Pine Street idea? Can that be, that first ARPA capacity grant thing? Do they want us to put them together, like you said, grant, idea, grant, put them together?
The Pine Street one, I'll have to check my notes and I may end up correcting myself offline to you all. I'll check my notes, but I believe Pine Street was requested to be part so that it could be part of the budgeting process.
Okay, okay.
Yep. But if that window's shut, then Sally, we could certainly, I'd see us attaching it, finding a way to attach it to something else. I remember off the top of my head, I'll have to look at the notes. They're in our share somewhere. But I think the budget was, Brad, Tanya, Dustin, correct me, but it was either in the 4,000s or the 7,000s to paint the lines on Pine Street.
Yeah.
I don't remember off the top of my head, but that feels right to me.
Yeah.
I really can't remember.
Yeah, I'll dig it up. It's not, I'm not seeing, nothing's jumping out at me right now, or nothing's jumping out right now in the share, but I'll see if I can find that. Regardless, when they came to us and asked us for this late last year, they said they were going to have to reapprove the funds anyway. The funds that they had approved initially for it are gone now.
If they were at all worried about funds, it would be worth throwing in that we could find a grant for it, because,
Great idea.
because it seemed like I heard them say something like that, like, oh, painting would be expensive or something like that. But
The set of grants there that we just discussed would apply.
yeah, that would be great. It would be great if they knew that that was something we'd be interested in,
Yep.
trying for.
Yep.
Help that happen.
All right, so we just brainstorm for next month, come up with a bunch of small actionable things, and
Great.
Correct. And I'll send this stuff to you offline, and also just a reminder to sort of split it down the middle. Things that we think we can go for those planning funds, like have somebody do the survey of Mountain Street is a great one. We'll ask Ian if the crosswalk thing needs any kind of survey or planning or anything like that. I'll also ask Jessica and Ian what the status is of the Airport Road project, because I know that they had done, or they had at least told us that something was happening as far as surveying Airport Road for doing an actual, I'm calling it Airport Road. I hope everybody knows what it is.
Yeah.
That to put in a sidewalk there finally,
Yeah.
to actually keep it going so that it actually serves both the rec center and, more importantly, Mount Abe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, any other questions or comments on the grants portion of this? Okay, then, sorry.
One question was, do you know how much those grants are for?
The AARP
flagship or the
ones-
demonstration?
The AARP ones are not listed,
Okay,
but I'll check the link and see if there's any documentation there. And the Regional Planning Commission one it looks like it's a bank sitting there of $25,000.
for a lot of towns.
Yeah, it's reading between the lines. It seems like it was initially earmarked for Middlebury, but which is why they probably call out that these are planning funds only, so can't be used to offset cost from the federal grants Middlebury already has. So it would be, but that said, the sooner we probably get in our request for that, the better. I don't see here a date on it. There is a date on the AARP thing of March 5th. So we'll be working fast. I'll
Yeah.
even look at potentially moving the date of our next meeting up to the middle of the month if everybody wants to like meet on the second week or something like that, so that we can vote on it and get the ideas in front of the town so that they can then they can then get it over the line,
Yeah,
if that's cool with everybody.
Works for me.
Okay, great.
great.
Any other questions or comments on grants?
None here.
Okay, then we'll move on to last agenda item, other business. Does anyone have anything else to discuss this month? I know this is a lot. We actually
Yeah.
both covered a lot and did a lot tonight.
Yeah,
And again, Sally, I can't thank you enough for heeding the call here. I noted, I don't know if everybody's seen or heard this. I mentioned it on the last meeting we had in November. I forwarded the application for board seats from the town hall to 4 people, all who had previously both requested and voiced interest. Sally and one other person wrote back afterwards, after I had forwarded the documentation with affirmatives. I'm going to check in on the other person who had asked for one. They're actually they fall. The reason why they were very interested is because they fall neatly into they're part of they live out on 116, and when I had met with them at another meeting for another town committee, they said, "Oh, so what are you thinking of?" And she said, "Where we live, that could really use some work." And I said, and this is a person who's very active, not unlike our friend Jim here, very active in listening in on these town conversations. I said, "Hey, we have seats open. You would represent someone not from the village and not from other areas that already have representation on the board. We would love to have you." So I'm going to ping her again and see if she's pushed that forward, because she'd be a great voice on here, and she's very activist when it comes to town matters. So
it's great.
yeah. Okay, so if there's no other business, I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, a second.
I second.
Oh, I'm gonna give it to Sally. Brad, that's gonna be her first motion or second motion. I'm kidding. You beat her by voice. She beat you by the fingers. So, okay. Well, then with all that, Brad, note at 8:01, we're going to adjourn. I thank everybody so much. Jim Qualiano, thanks again, always, for joining us. But thanks everybody for making it. I'll forward you a bunch of documentation offline in the next day or two.
Thanks so much.
great.
It was great.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Thanks.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.